There is a moment in every life when the soul grows weary, not from the labor of living, but from the labor of disappearing. You have given so much of yourself to others that when you finally pause and look inward, you find an emptiness so vast it terrifies you. The mirror of your being reflects nothing back. You have become a phantom in your own existence, a servant to every need but your own, a vessel poured out until even the memory of fullness fades into the distance. This is not nobility. This is not love. This is the slow erasure of the self, the quiet tragedy of a soul that has forgotten its sacred right to exist. Ibn Arabi, the great mystic and philosopher of Andalusia, understood this paradox of human existence with a clarity that still echoes through the centuries. He knew that in our desperate attempts to please others, to be everything for everyone, we lose sight of the most fundamental truth, that we are manifestations of the divine, and to abandon ourselves is to abandon God within us. He wrote extensively about the journey inward, about the necessity of seclusion, of khalwa, not as an escape from the world, but as a return to the source of all being. For how can you give to others what you do not possess yourself? How can you offer light when your own flame has been extinguished by the relentless winds of obligation and expectation? The world teaches you from birth that your value lies in what you can offer. Your worth is measured in smiles, in sacrifices, in the approval gleaming in another's eyes. You learn to mold yourself into shapes that please, to silence the voice within that whispers of boundaries and needs, to transform your soul into a currency spent freely on those who may never truly see you. And for a time, this seems to work. You feel needed. You feel important. The validation flows like honey, sweet and thick, and you drink deeply, believing this is what it means to love, to serve, to be good. But beneath this performance, something ancient and essential begins to wither. Your heart, that sacred chamber where the divine resides, grows cluttered with the demands of others, leaving no room for the silence in which truth speaks. What you do not realize in those years of endless giving is that you are not actually giving at all. You are abandoning. You are fleeing from the most difficult encounter of all, the confrontation with your own depths, with the God who waits patiently in the chambers of your heart, with the self that demands to be known and honored. Ibn Arabi teaches that true knowledge cannot come from imitating others, from living according to the scripts handed down by society, family, or tradition. Real knowledge, the kind that transforms and liberates, must be discovered in the crucible of solitude, in that terrifying and sacred space where you stand naked before the divine, stripped of all pretense, all performance, all the masks you have worn for so long that you forgot they were not your face. The spiritual journey that Ibn Arabi describes is not one of physical movement, but of inward ascent. It is what he calls the immobile voyage, where the body remains still, but the heart travels through realms of consciousness that most people never glimpse in an entire lifetime. This journey requires something that our modern world has forgotten how to value: the capacity to be alone, truly alone, without distraction, without the noise of others filling every corner of your awareness. In that aloneness, something miraculous begins to happen. The illusion of separation starts to dissolve. You begin to understand that what you have been seeking in the approval of others has always existed within you, that the divine presence you have been chasing through acts of service and self-sacrifice has never been absent, only obscured by the chaos of your own restless giving. But this realization does not come easily. It demands that you do something that may feel at first like betrayal. It demands that you stop, that you withdraw, that you create boundaries where before there were none. And when you do this, when you finally say no to the endless requests, the persistent demands, the expectations that have colonized your life, you will encounter resistance, not only from others, whose comfort depended on your compliance, but from within yourself. A voice will rise up, shrill and accusatory, telling you that you are selfish, that you are failing, that to choose yourself is to abandon love itself. This voice is the echo of all the conditioning you have absorbed, all the lies you have been told about what it means to be good. Ibn Arabi would tell you to listen to that voice, to acknowledge it, and then to move beyond it. For it is not the voice of truth, but the voice of the ego defending its familiar prison. In the Sufi tradition, the concept of khalwa, or spiritual seclusion, is not about running away from people or responsibilities. It is about creating sacred space for the divine to reveal itself within you. It is about emptying your heart of everything that is not God, so that you can finally perceive the truth that has always been present, that there is nothing in existence but the divine self-disclosing in infinite forms, and you are one of those forms, precious and irreplaceable. When you understand this, when you truly embody this knowledge, your relationship with others transforms completely. You no longer give from a place of depletion, desperation, or the need for validation. You give from abundance, from overflow, from the fullness of a heart that has been filled by the only source that never runs dry. The 40-day retreat that Ibn Arabi describes in his writings is a metaphor for this deeper process of spiritual transformation. Whether you physically withdraw from the world or not, what matters is the inner retreat, the turning away from the constant noise of external demands to face the silence within. In that silence, you will encounter everything you have been avoiding: your fears, your wounds, your anger, your grief, the parts of yourself you deemed unworthy and locked away in the darkness. This confrontation is not pleasant. It will not be easy. But it is necessary, for you cannot transcend what you refuse to acknowledge, and you cannot heal what you will not touch. As you sit with yourself in this silence, something begins to shift. The emptiness you feared turns out to be not absence, but spaciousness. The loneliness transforms into solitude, and solitude becomes the doorway to intimacy with the divine. You realize that you were never truly empty. You were distracted. You were never abandoned. You simply stopped listening to the voice that has been calling you home since before you were born. This is the moment of awakening, the instant when the heart turns back toward its source and recognizes that every experience of loss, every moment of pain, every season of exhaustion was not punishment but invitation, a call to return to the truth of who you are. Ibn Arabi teaches that the journey to God is ultimately a journey within oneself. He says, "My journey had been only in myself. I have provided no indications of anything but myself." This is not narcissism. This is not self-absorption. It is the recognition that the human being, created in the image of the divine, contains within their own consciousness the entire cosmos, all the names and attributes of God, every possibility of existence. To know yourself deeply, completely, without illusion or pretense, is to know God. And this knowledge does not come from books or teachers or rituals, though these can point the way. It comes from the direct encounter, the unveiling that happens when you finally have the courage to stop running, stop performing, stop giving yourself away to everyone except the one who matters most. When you stop giving yourself to everyone, you do not become cold or isolated or selfish. You become real. You become present. You step into your authentic power, which is not the power to control or dominate, but the power to exist fully as yourself, without apology, without the constant need for external validation. This is terrifying for many people because we have been taught that to be ourselves is dangerous, that authenticity will lead to rejection, that if we stop being what others need us to be, we will be left alone. And perhaps in some cases this is true. Some relationships, some connections, some dynamics cannot survive your transformation into wholeness. They were built on your compliance, your silence, your willingness to disappear, and when you refuse to play that role any longer, they crumble. This is not tragedy, this is liberation. The Sufi path that Ibn Arabi illuminates is one of radical honesty. It asks you to look at every relationship, every commitment, every place you have given your energy and ask, does this serve my soul? Does this connection elevate me toward the divine or pull me away from my truth? This is not about judgment or condemnation. It is about discernment, about learning to distinguish between genuine love and codependence, between service and servitude, between giving and self-abandonment. Ibn Arabi reminds us that every person in our life is a mirror, reflecting back to us what we believe about ourselves, what we allow, what we refuse to confront. When others repeatedly violate your boundaries, when they take without giving, when they drain you without reciprocation, the issue is not only with them, it is with the part of you that has not yet learned to protect what is sacred. Setting boundaries is not an act of aggression. It is an act of clarity. It is the soul saying, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I can offer and what I cannot. This is the line that, if crossed, will damage both of us. These boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out. They are pathways that lead to healthier, more authentic relationships. When you establish clear boundaries, you give others the gift of knowing exactly where they stand with you. You eliminate the confusion, the resentment, the unspoken expectations that poison so many connections. You create space for genuine intimacy, which can only exist between two whole people, not between one person and the fragment of another who has given everything away. But to create these boundaries, you must first believe that you are worthy of them. You must internalize the truth that Ibn Arabi spent his life teaching, that you are a manifestation of the divine, that your existence is not an accident or a burden, but a sacred necessity, that the cosmos itself would be incomplete without your unique expression of the infinite. This is not arrogance, this is the fundamental reality of existence as Ibn Arabi understood it. God, the absolute reality, knows himself through his creation. You are the means by which the divine sees, hears, experiences, and loves. To diminish yourself, to erase yourself in service to others, is to deny God the opportunity to know himself through your particular form. It is, in a sense, a cosmic betrayal, a refusal of your essential role in the grand tapestry of existence. This understanding should not inflate your ego, but dissolve it. For if you are a manifestation of the divine, so is everyone else. So is the tree outside your window, the stranger on the street, the person who hurt you, the system that oppresses you. Everything, without exception, is God revealing himself in infinite diversity. But this does not mean that all manifestations are the same, or that you should treat them all identically. Each form has its own nature, its own purpose, its own rightful place. A tree does not try to be a stone. Water does not pretend to be fire. And you, in your unique expression of divine consciousness, have your own nature that must be honored, your own boundaries that must be maintained, your own path that must be walked, even if it means walking alone for a time. The concept of the perfect human being in Ibn Arabi's philosophy is often misunderstood. It is not about achieving some impossible standard of moral perfection or spiritual superiority. It is about becoming fully yourself, which means fully human, which means fully divine. The perfect human being is the one who has realized their essential unity with the divine and who therefore lives from that place of wholeness, responding to each moment according to its unique requirements rather than according to fixed rules or expectations. This person has emptied themselves of all limitation, all fixed beliefs, all the conditioning that separates self from source. They are like a clear mirror that reflects whatever stands before it, without distortion, without judgment, without the need to change or control what appears. To reach this state of clarity, you must undergo what Ibn Arabi calls fana, the annihilation of the ego, followed by baka, the perpetuation in God. These terms sound dramatic, even frightening, but they describe a process that is actually quite simple, though not easy. Fana is what happens when you finally let go of all the stories you tell yourself about who you are, when you release the identity you have constructed through years of striving and performing and adapting to the expectations of others. It is the death of the false self, the persona, the mask, and it feels like dying because, in a sense, it is. Everything you thought you knew about yourself dissolves. Every certainty crumbles. You are left in a void, a darkness, a silence so profound that it seems like the end of everything. But this void is not empty. It is pregnant with infinite possibility. It is the same primordial emptiness that existed before creation, when God was alone with himself, containing all potential but not yet manifested. When you enter this void through the death of your false self, you discover that you have not been destroyed, but liberated. What remains after the ego dissolves is your true nature, which is nothing less than consciousness itself, the awareness that perceives everything but cannot be reduced to any single thing. This is baka, perpetuation in God, the state in which you realize that you have always been and will always be, because your true nature is not separate from the eternal. In this state you see the world transformed. You perceive God in everything and everything in God. The duality that once tormented you, self and other, giver and receiver, sacred and profane, dissolves into unity. This does not mean that distinctions disappear or that you become indifferent to the world. On the contrary, you become more present, more engaged, more capable of authentic response, but you are no longer driven by fear, by the need for approval, by the desperate hunger for validation that once compelled you to give yourself away. You act from freedom rather than compulsion, from love rather than obligation. And when you do give, and you will give because giving is the nature of existence itself, you give from fullness, not from emptiness. You give because it is your nature to overflow, not because you are trying to fill a void or prove your worth. Ibn Arabi emphasizes that there is no repetition in God's self-disclosure. Every moment is unique, every breath a new creation, every instant an opportunity to encounter the divine in a form that has never appeared before and will never appear again. When you grasp this truth, you understand why trying to live according to fixed rules or rigid beliefs is ultimately futile. Life is not a problem to be solved once and for all. It is an endless revelation, a continuous unveiling, and to meet it fully requires that you remain open, fluid, empty of preconceptions. This is why you must let go of the stories you tell yourself about who you should be, what you should do, how you should give. Those stories are based on past experiences, on outdated information, on the needs of a self that no longer exists. The person you were yesterday is not the person you are today, and clinging to yesterday's identity prevents you from receiving today's revelation. This teaching has profound implications for how you relate to others. If every moment is unique and unrepeatable, then every encounter is also unique and unrepeatable. The person standing before you now is not the same person they were an hour ago, and you are not the same either. To meet them truly requires that you let go of all your assumptions, all your judgments, all your expectations. You must approach each encounter with beginner's mind, with openness, with the willingness to be surprised. And this is only possible if you have done the inner work, if you have created enough space within yourself to hold the complexity and mystery of another human being without needing to reduce them to a category or a role. But this openness does not mean you have no boundaries. This is a crucial distinction. Being open to the divine self-disclosure in every form does not require you to accept abuse, manipulation, or exploitation. It does not mean you should tolerate relationships that drain you or environments that harm you. True openness comes from a place of inner strength, not weakness. It requires that you know yourself so deeply, that you are so grounded in your connection to the divine, that you can encounter others without losing yourself in them. And sometimes, honoring that connection means saying no, means walking away, means choosing solitude over connection that feels like suffocation. The practice of khalwa, of spiritual retreat, is meant to cultivate this inner strength. When you spend time alone, really alone, without the constant input of others' needs and opinions, you begin to hear your own voice again. You remember what you actually think, what you actually feel, what you actually need. You rediscover the desires and dreams that got buried beneath layers of obligation. You reconnect with the part of yourself that knows without doubt or hesitation what is true and what is false, what serves your soul and what betrays it. This voice, this inner knowing, is not your ego speaking. It is the divine within you, the consciousness that has never been confused, that has never forgotten its origin, that has been patiently waiting for you to stop long enough to listen. In our contemporary world, this kind of retreat feels almost impossible. We are bombarded constantly with stimulation, with demands, with the relentless noise of a culture that values productivity over presence, doing over being, external achievement over internal knowing. To withdraw from this machinery, even temporarily, is an act of rebellion. It is a statement that your inner life matters more than the endless tasks clamoring for your attention, that your soul's needs are more important than the expectations of a system that would grind you down to nothing if you let it. This withdrawal is not escapism. It is the most courageous thing you can do because it means facing yourself without distraction, without the buffer of busyness, without the convenient excuses that keep you from the truth. What you discover in that confrontation may shock you. You may find anger you didn't know you were carrying, rage at all the times you silenced yourself, all the moments you betrayed your truth for the comfort of others, all the years you spent being who you thought you should be rather than who you actually are. You may find grief, deep wells of sorrow for the life you didn't live, the person you didn't become, the potential you abandoned in service to expectations that were never even yours to begin with. You may find fear, the primal terror of being alone, of being seen, of being rejected for who you truly are. All of this will rise to the surface when you finally stop running, and your first instinct will be to flee again, to fill the silence with noise, to to distract yourself with the needs of others. But if you stay, if you have the courage to remain present with whatever arises, something miraculous begins to happen. The emotions that seemed so overwhelming start to lose their power. You realize that feelings are not facts, that thoughts are not truths, that the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve are just that. Stories, narratives that can be questioned, revised, or released entirely. Beneath the turbulence of emotion and thought, you discover a stillness that has always been there, a silence that is not empty but full, a peace that does not depend on external circumstances. This is what the mystics call the peace that passes understanding, and it is your birthright, the natural state of consciousness when it is not disturbed by the endless agitation of the ego. From this place of inner peace, your entire relationship with the world transforms. You are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself, to justify your existence, to earn love through endless giving. You understand that your worth is inherent, not earned, that you are loved by the divine not for what you do but for what you are. This understanding liberates you from the exhausting cycle of performance and approval seeking. You can finally rest, you can finally be, and from that place of rest, of being, you can offer to others something far more valuable than your services or your sacrifices. You can offer your presence, your authenticity, your truth. You can meet them as one whole human being meeting another, rather than as one fragment desperately trying to complete itself through the approval of others. This does not mean you become perfect or that life becomes easy. The challenges continue, the demands persist, but your relationship to them changes fundamentally. You learn to respond rather than react, to choose rather than comply, to give consciously rather than compulsively. You develop the capacity to discern which requests deserve your yes and which ones require your no. You understand that every time you say yes to something that depletes you, you are saying no to something that could nourish you. You recognize that your energy is finite, that your time is limited, that your life is precious beyond measure, and that to squander these resources on obligations that do not serve your soul is a form of slow suicide. Ibn Arabi teaches that the goal of the spiritual path is not to escape the world but to see it clearly. When you achieve the vision of unity, when you perceive the divine in all things, you do not become detached or indifferent. You become more alive, more engaged, more capable of appropriate response, but you are no longer confused about where you end and others begin. You maintain what he calls solitude in the crowd, the capacity to remain connected to your inner source, even as you move through the world and interact with others. This is the ultimate balance, the integration of khalwa and jalwa, retreat and engagement, inner silence and outer action. This balance is what allows you to live sustainably in relationship with others. When you maintain your connection to the divine source within, you do not burn out. You do not deplete yourself. You are constantly replenished by the same infinite energy that animates all of existence. You become like a fountain rather than a reservoir, always full because always connected to the underground spring that never runs dry. From this state, your giving becomes effortless, natural, joyful. It is not a duty or an obligation. It is simply the overflow of a heart that has been filled by the divine and cannot help but spill over into the world. But to reach this state, you must first do what seems counterintuitive, even selfish. You must withdraw. You must stop. You must turn away from the endless demands and turn toward yourself, toward the silence within, toward the divine presence that has been waiting patiently for your attention. You must give to yourself what you have been so freely giving to others: time, attention, compassion, forgiveness, patience, love. You must treat yourself with the same kindness you extend to strangers, the same generosity you offer to those who ask. You must become, in a sense, your own best friend, your own most devoted lover, your own most faithful companion. This is not narcissism. This is not selfishness. This is self-preservation, which is a form of reverence for the divine that manifests as you. When you honor yourself, you honor God. When you protect your boundaries, you protect the sacred space where the divine dwells within you. When you say no to what depletes you, you say yes to what enlivens you. And what enlivens you ultimately enlivens everyone around you, because a person who is connected to their source, who is whole and integrated and at peace, radiates that peace into the world without even trying. They become a blessing simply by being who they are, not by doing, achieving, or sacrificing. The journey Ibn Arabi describes is ultimately a journey from fragmentation to wholeness, from confusion to clarity, from compulsive giving to conscious offering. It is a journey that begins with the courage to stop, to withdraw, to face yourself without the convenient distractions of other people's needs. It continues through the darkness of self-confrontation, through the death of the false self, through the void that feels like annihilation. And it culminates in the recognition that you have always been whole, that the fragmentation was an illusion, that the divine you were seeking outside yourself has never been absent from within. This recognition changes everything. It transforms your relationships, your work, your sense of purpose, your entire experience of being alive. When you finally understand that you are not separate from the divine, that your existence is not an accident, but a necessary expression of infinite consciousness, that you matter not because of what you do, but because of what you are, you can finally relax. You can finally let go of the exhausting effort to prove your worth, to earn your place, to justify your existence through endless sacrifice. You can simply be. And in that being, you discover a joy that has nothing to do with external circumstances, a peace that does not depend on others' approval, a love that flows not from need, but from abundance. This is the gift that Ibn Arabi offers to anyone willing to undertake the journey, the gift of coming home to yourself, which is the same as coming home to God. The path is not easy. It requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to challenge everything you have been taught about what it means to be good, to be valuable, to be worthy of love. It asks you to question the stories that have shaped your life, to examine the beliefs that drive your behavior, to confront the fears that keep you trapped in patterns of self-abandonment. It demands that you do the one thing our culture teaches you never to do. Put yourself first, not in the shallow sense of selfishness or narcissism, but in the deep sense of honoring your connection to the divine, of protecting the sacred space within where truth resides, of maintaining your integrity even when it costs you relationships, approval, or comfort. But the reward for this courage is nothing less than your life back. Your real life, not the half-life you have been living, the shadow existence of someone who has given so much away that they forgot how to receive, how to rest, how to simply be without doing. When you stop giving yourself to everyone, you do not become less. You become more present, more authentic, more alive. You step into the fullness of your being, which is also the fullness of the divine being that expresses itself as you. And from that fullness, that overflow, that abundance, you can finally give to others what they truly need. Not your compliance, not your sacrifice, not your self-abandonment, but your truth, your presence, your wholeness. This is the secret that Ibn Arabi spent his life trying to communicate, that the journey to God is not a journey away from yourself, but a journey into yourself, that the divine you seek is not far away, but closer than your own breath, that the love you crave from others is already present within you, waiting only for your recognition. When you stop scattering yourself across the endless demands of the world and gather yourself back into the center, into the silence, into the sacred space where the divine dwells, you discover that you have always been home. You have always been whole. You have always been loved. And from that recognition, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you finally see it clearly. See yourself clearly. See the divine in all things and all things in the divine. This is the vision that liberates, the knowing that heals, the truth that sets you free. So stop, withdraw, create space, honor your boundaries, listen to the voice within that has been trying to reach you through the noise. Give to yourself what you have been giving to others. Treat yourself as sacred because you are. Protect your energy because it is finite and precious. Choose relationships that honor you and release those that drain you. Say no to what depletes you and yes to what enlivens you. Rest when you are tired. Retreat when you are overwhelmed. Sit in silence when the world is too loud. And in that silence, that solitude, that sacred aloneness, you will discover that you have never been alone. The divine has always been there, waiting patiently for you to stop running, stop performing, stop giving yourself away to everyone except the one who matters most. When you finally turn toward that presence, when you finally come home to yourself, you will understand what Ibn Arabi knew, that this is not the end of love, but its beginning. Not the death of service, but its transformation. Not isolation, but the deepest intimacy possible. You will understand that when you stop giving yourself to everyone, you finally have something real to give. And that changes everything.